Hi, I'm Emily Platzer with Building 61, the Boulder Library Makerspace. Today, we're going to talk about making a rendered butter, also known as ghee.
To make ghee, we need unsalted butter. I'll be rendering 7 pounds of butter this time. In a pot big enough to hold all the butter that you're going to render, add your butter. You want to start it on a very low flame. Here's all the butter that we'll be rendering in the pot. Again, we'll just have this on a slow heat, maybe a little bit more than that, but something pretty low. We'll keep an eye on it as it melts. If you have a thermometer, it's really fun to see the temperature changes that happen along the way. We still have some solid butter in there, so it's not going to be too hot quite yet, but let's go ahead and check it. We now have our butter melted, and let's check the temperature again. The temperature is definitely climbing pretty quickly. At this point, it'll keep climbing till it reaches about boiling, and then we'll have a little bit of a simmer happening. You want that to be a very low simmer. You don't want this to go too fast. Low and slow will get you the best product. What's happening now is that the water in the milk that's still in the butter will be boiling off. At the same time, the proteins in the milk will be coming out of solution. So those will be precipitating, and you'll see like a little bit of a crust that slowly happens as the ghee or the butter gets clearer and clearer. So let's check this back in a few minutes. Now the butter is at a very low simmer. Let's take the temperature. If you don't have a thermometer, that's okay. As long as you can see that there's a little bit of a simmer, a little bit of a boil to your butter, you know that there's still water from the milk in the butter that's coming out. We also see that there is a surface skim. And if we move that to the side, you can see that there's starting to be some clarified butter in there, and the milk solids are still very light colored. Eventually these will get darker and fall to the bottom. You can see that we're starting to get some more clear sections, but there's still some boiling happening and still some solids floating around. So we'll continue out of curiosity, check temp. It's a little bit low, we might be able to raise it a little bit. Nah, it's actually fine. As long as it's boiling a little bit, you should be good. More than that is too much. Just a real low simmer. This is just right for that simmer. It's very low, very slow. We still have a lot of solids that need to precipitate out, but we're starting to see some margins that are clear. Let's do a temperature check. Again, not required. You can see that it's boiling. You know that there's still water in there. So it looks like our butter is still simmering just a little bit, but it looks very different. So let's give it a stir. As we stir, there's a little bit of water that's coming up and boiling. So just be very careful as you're doing this. And you can see that there's a lot of solids that are starting to come out and turn like a golden brown. So we'll just give this a stir and we'll take a temperature too. But as it's still boiling a little bit, it's probably still needing a little bit of time. probably been 5 hours at this point, at a very slow simmer. So that's probably pretty close to being done, but once the rest of that water is boiled out, it's gonna shoot up in temperature and it's gonna stop bubbling quite so much. So it's pretty close. We'll check on it again in a few. You can see that the butter is no longer boiling, which means it is done. But I can also show you with the thermometer that it is no longer close to boiling, it's a lot higher. There's still a little bit of movement there. There could be a little bit of water in there, but most of that is gone. So now we can let that cool, and then we will separate the solids from the oil. You can see now that it's a little bit cooler, that there is a thick portion of clear rendered butter, and on the bottom there's some crusty bits that are golden brown. We'll be separating these. Now you can decant the butter, which is now ghee. It's better to do this with some cheesecloth and a strainer, but I don't have any, so I'm making the best of what I have. I'm using a strainer and a funnel. I think we can get one more in there. You want to not disturb the bottom where those sediments are. You'll also want to avoid the skim, which I moved over to the side. And here we have our finished ghee. It's still liquid, so it's a little bit more translucent. As it comes down to room temperature, it'll be more opaque, but still like a light golden color, lighter than this. You can see this last one that was poured off has a little bit more sediment. It wasn't quite cleared by that screen. If you used a cheesecloth, it would be much more clear, that last pour, but we'll use this one first. I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you try and make ghee sometime. It's delicious on toast, in soup, and it's an excellent high heat cooking oil.